Afternoon.
Good afternoon.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
All right. You submitted a note that says, "I know this witness," and the note was submitted with respect to witness Hans Andrew Eliason, who goes by Kelly Eliason. How do you know this witness?
He's a friend of the family's. I see him usually once a year at a Christmas Eve party.
Do you remember whether you circled his name in the questionnaire when you filled out the questionnaire?
I didn't recognize it, to be honest.
Okay. Well, and I know that there were a lot of witnesses' names provided, so how long have you known this individual?
I'd say 5 or 6 years.
And you said that he's a friend of the family's. Can you give me more details about that?
So my husband's family has a very large extended family, and every year they just have a big Christmas Eve party. So he's friends with my husband's wife's husband. So
Wait, I didn't follow that.
my husband's sister, he's friends with his brothers. So it's my brother-in-law, and then it's a friend of his, I think.
So your husband's sister is friends with the witness's brothers? Is that right?
No. Sorry, my husband's sister, her husband, it's his brother that they're friends with. So again, it's just a very large extended family. Sorry. I don't even know what he would be technically.
All right. And how do you describe your relationship with this witness? Would you say it's a friendship or an acquaintanceship?
It's just an acquaintance.
An acquaintance? Okay.
Yes.
And anything about that acquaintanceship that you think affects your ability to be a fair and impartial juror in this trial?
No.
Anything about that acquaintanceship that in any way affects your ability to assess this witness's credibility in the same way that you would assess any other witness's credibility?
No.
Anything about your acquaintanceship with this witness that would interfere in any way or affect your ability to assess his credibility pursuant to my instructions?
No.
And so are you confident that if he testifies, and it looks like he will testify, that you will be able to assess his credibility pursuant to my instructions just the same way as you would assess the credibility of other witnesses?
Yes, sir.
And your answer seemed confident. Am I reading you correctly?
Yes.
All right. Do you have any other concerns about this that you wish to talk to me about?
No, sir.
And anything about the acquaintanceship that concerns you in terms of your verdict in this case and having to justify it at some point to this witness in the future if you ever run into him, or having to explain anything to him?
No, sir.
Okay. All right, let me have you step out for just a moment, okay? Thank you. All right, the record should reflect that juror number 557 has stepped out of the courtroom. Are there any other questions that the people want me to ask this juror, Mr. Edson?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Any other record that the people want me to make?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Any other requests that the people want me that the people are making at this time?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Mr. King, any other questions that you would like me to ask juror 557?
No questions, Judge.
Any other record that you would like me to make?
Judge, we think that given that Mr. Eliason is not a peace officer, he's an employee of the district attorney's office. He's a direct agent of the district attorney. That being the case, and given the nature of this relationship and the ongoing nature of this relationship, I think that we need to ask that this juror be excused.
All right, what's the people's position with respect to that request?
A quick moment, please.
Yes.
Judge, we would object to releasing this juror based on the record that's been made thus far. First of all, Mr. Eliason is a peace officer. He's a post-certified individual. He's a senior investigator with our office. We don't think that just simply because he's an employee of our office changes any sort of aspect of his testimony in this particular case, particularly given what he's being called for the limited purpose of the upcoming exhibit, as I alluded to. So, Judge, we would object at this time.
Okay. All right, Mr. King, anything else from you?
Judge, I would just say that with regard to the limited purpose that Mr. Eliason is being called for here, I acknowledge this may be, I don't know what this purpose is, but it seems like it's limited. Mr. Eliason has not played a limited role in this case, though. He's done extensive interviews with nearly, with a good portion of the eyewitnesses in the case, including numerous interviews with expert witnesses in this case that will be hotly contested as to what the contents of those interviews were. So I suspect he may play a larger role than is being represented here right now. And with regard to whether he's post-certified or not, my point is that he's not an employee of a law enforcement agency. He is an employee of the district attorney's office. He is their direct agent. And I believe the court should analyze this as if one of the prosecutors were recognized.
All right. Do you have any objection if I bring her back and ask whether she knows how this witness is employed? Mr. Edson?
No objection.
Mr. King?
I have no objection to that, Judge. I frankly think it's irrelevant at this point because she's going to find out very, very soon. Whether she knows now or not, she will know very soon, and her relationship is still the same.
For what purpose are the people intending to call this witness?
Judge, at this time, we're calling Mr. Eliason merely as a foundational witness to People's Exhibit 1077. Mr. Eliason spoke with an individual at Motorcycle Depot. It's an invoice for Motorcycle Depot. Mr. Eliason wrote on the original copy of the invoice, and it states original received from Adam Levy on January 13th, 2015, and then has his initials. So my intent was to call him to authenticate that portion of the invoice because the other witness from Motorcycle Depot would not be able to authenticate the writing on it, and that was the limited purpose.
Does the defense object to that note not being authenticated?
Judge, I don't think that it changes the analysis because, as I said, I don't think that Mr. Eliason's role in this case is limited to this one note. He played quite an extensive role. If this was the one thing that he had done, I think we could solve this problem by doing exactly what the court is suggesting, but I don't think that that eliminates the problem, so we would object to that.
Well, but at this time, this is all that's before me. I can't engage in predicting what's going to happen or what's not going to happen. It's possible that he may be called again as a witness. It's possible that he may not. And so if there's no objection, if there's not going to be an objection or a problem with the note not being authenticated, then we can proceed without the prosecution calling him at this time, and the prosecution can call him later if they want to, and if the prosecution calls him later, then we can address the issue at that time. But we don't have to cross that bridge at this time, unless there's an objection to the note, in which case the prosecution has to call them, and I do have to address this. So,
Judge, can we have a moment to discuss that?
yes?
Thank you, Your Honor. Upon reflection, we have no objection to stipulating to the admission of this for this limited purpose. We would ask that if at the time that Mr. Eliason should be, or the prosecution intends to call him later in the trial, that we be able to approach the bench and address the issue with the court at that time, prior to his testimony.
Okay, all right. I still think it makes sense for me to ask if she knows who he's employed by, and if the issue comes up again, I may deal with that. I don't know whether an instruction preventing the prosecution from eliciting that information would address the concern, but we're not there yet. I think it makes sense for me to ask at this time, just in case, unless the parties think I should defer on that as well. Mr. Edson, do you have a position?
We take no position, Judge.
All right, Mr. King, do you have a position? Just on the question of whether she knows how he's employed.
No, Your Honor.
All right, no, you don't have an objection. Okay, let's bring her in, please. Juror 557 is now back in the courtroom. Thank you for your patience.
Sure.
One question I have, do you know how Mr. Eliason is employed?
I believe some kind of law enforcement, but I don't know exactly.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Sure.
Thank you. The record should reflect that Juror 557 has exited the courtroom now. Since there's no objection to the note on Exhibit 1077 being authenticated, that renders the prosecution's need to call Mr. Eliason at this time moot. They don't need to call him at this time. Now, if at some point in the future you need to call on Mr. King, you can bring up the issue again, but without getting my permission, the prosecution cannot elicit from this witness that he's employed by the district attorney's office. You can say he's law enforcement, and that's it, but you have to get the issue before me outside the presence of the jury. Mr. King sounds like may want to bring it up again, but unless I hear any objection to that, that's how I'm inclined to go, okay?